The Diaspora, stealing planes. Is there such a thing as an Israeli brain drain? After all, 3 of 6 Israeli Nobel Prize winners won them while working in the US. And for every 100 academics in Israeli institutions of higher learning, 29 are working in US universities. Israel has, in recent years, seen less spending on higher education, with more students and fewer teachers. But the brain drain isn't necessarily a one-way street. Some people travel back and forth from one country to the next. It's been suggested that brain circulation might be a better term. Like the ancient Greeks in search of the golden fleece, with Jason, of course, as the great hero. Today's new Argonauts, according to UC Berkeley, are foreign-born, technically skilled entrepreneurs who travel back and forth between Silicon Valley and their home countries. And that, as it turns out, is a pretty healthy thing. We can think of them as being marinated in Silicon Valley culture. And Silicon Valley culture has a number of key ingredients: trust, risk-taking, integrity, accessibility, empowerment, jealousy in the sense that people are happy for others who do well, sharing wealth, constructive feedback, and collaboration. It's a culture that nourishes a field of dreams in the sense of the classic Kevin Costner film, "If you build it, they will come." One prime example of a new Argonaut is Michael Laor of Ben Gurion University, who had previously worked for Cisco in California. But like an Argonaut, he wanted to return to Israel. He might simply have resigned from Cisco, but instead he persuaded Cisco to open its first research and development center outside the United States. He got busy designing a high-end router called CRS-1, which sold for some $2 million apiece. Cisco was duly impressed and went on to acquire a total of 9 Israeli startups. What developed has amounted to a whole innovation ecosystem linking Israel and the diaspora. Historically, American Jewish investors weren't really interested in Israel and wouldn't touch it in terms of making serious investment for capital gain. In fact, their only connection with Israel was for philanthropic reasons, basically motivated by sympathy. Enter Al Schwimmer, an aviation engineer in Los Angeles. He had been a committed Zionist ever since he saw the first concentration camp newsreel footage exposing the horror of the Nazi Holocaust. After World War II, and before the State of Israel was born in 1948, the British exercised mandatory power over Palestine and actively prevented Jewish immigration. Schwimmer had the bright idea of flying Jews into Palestine over the heads of the British and subsequently hiding them in secret airfields. He was surprised when the Jewish military force in Palestine, the Haganah, instead asked him to buy and repair old planes, and smuggle those in. Schwimmer obliged, also smuggling in captured German Messerschmitts. During Israel's War of Independence in 1948, it was Schwimmer's planes that fought off the invading Egyptians.
I was in Minot, North Dakota, partners in a used car and truck business. Money, girlfriends, cars, the whole enchilada. When I got this phone call from New York.
I got a letter from a friend of mine at TWA, called this number and asked for Swifty, just like that. So what the hell, I called the number. Livingston, where the hell are you? Been waiting a week for you. I said, waiting for me? Yeah, we need you right away.
I said I'd wear a flying jacket, so a leather jacket, so they would recognize me. And they said to bring a logbook of proof that I was a pilot.
They were meeting at a hotel on 57th Street in New York, the Henry Hudson Hotel. Served great martinis.
A fellow who identified himself as Steve Schwartz, apprising me of the fact that Israel was going to declare itself a state, that they were going to be attacked by at least 5 Arab armies, and they had no way to defend themselves, except that they had purchased some airplanes, but they had no one to fly them. And would I be in a position to help?
The idea that Jews were going to fight, I found exciting. It's about time.
It wasn't like a newspaper ad, join the Haganah. It was illegal, of course. He said, look, I know there's going to be a war there, and I'm a fighter pilot, and I want to go there.
And I had just made up my mind that nothing was going to stop me. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't do this.
The alternative is too hard for me to envision, the possibility of what the Arabs could have done. And they talked about the fact that what Hitler did will be nothing compared to what we're going to do. You know, you're talking about 600,000 Jews and 50 million Arabs surrounding them. I didn't see how they could possibly survive.
The Arab countries had established air forces. We had almost nothing. 4 junked airplanes. Different propeller, different engines from spare parts that the German Air Force left behind in Czechoslovakia.
I remember sitting in the cockpit of my Me-109, wearing a German uniform, a German helmet, a German parachute. What's a nice Jewish boy from St. Paul doing in a place like this? The irony of it did not escape any of us.
The Arabs had squadrons, they had planes, they had tanks, they had guns, they had everything, except that will to win that the Israelis had, that they had to win.
He says, look, 6 miles from where we're standing now at the airbase is the whole Egyptian army of about 10,000 men, about 500 vehicles, tanks, trucks, and tankers, and we have nothing to stop them. I said, well, tomorrow I was going to go. He says, if you don't go now, They'll be in Tel Aviv in the morning and there's no Israel.
These airplanes had never been test flown. They were assembled in the hangar, and they just started up, taxied out, and attacked the Egyptian army coming up the coast.
I looked back and I saw the land of Israel. I looked there, I saw the enemy that came to destroy us. I just did a quick Shema Yisrael, even though I'm not religious. Turned the airplane upside down because the dive bomb, the steeper the dive, the more accurate is the hit.
I told Lou, this is about the dumbest thing that I'd ever heard of, and I would never have done it, but they stopped the Egyptians cold.
I felt more at home in Israel than I did in the United States. I felt this is my home. As a Jew, I now felt proud of being Jewish.
I was born to be here on that moment of history to contribute to Israel's survival.
I had done something good for once.
We built an Air Force. We started an Air Force.
If you wrote the history of the Jewish people 1,000 years from now, there are two things that I can tell you will be in it. One is the Holocaust, one is the birth of the State of Israel. The people who went to Israel and participated in this effort were, really part of two of the most significant, incredible, devastating, tragic, euphoric episodes in Jewish history, I think for all time.
Shortly before I left, I happened to be in Tel Aviv when they were bringing in refugees from the death camps in Europe. I remember them getting down on their hands and knees and kissing the ground. I knew then and there that was the reason that I came.
The 1935 Neutrality Act prohibited U.S. citizens by law from exporting weaponry to other countries, but that didn't stop Schwimmer and others like him. There was even a B-17 bomber smuggled in by a fellow named Charles Winters via the Jewish agency smuggling network in direct violation of the Neutrality Act to fight in Israel's War of Independence. The FBI got wind of such activity and went as far as to file a criminal case against Schwimmer. A fine was imposed on him as a penalty, but nothing more, and that was seen as an exoneration of sorts. He was let off easy. Additionally, Shimon Peres tried to buy a number of Mustang fighters for Israel's fledgling Air Force, but they had been cut up and rendered useless. Schwimmer jumped into action, buying cut-up planes from a Texas junk dealer. He shipped them to Israel in crates marked irrigation equipment. A few additional planes were reassembled and flown to Israel by Peres and Schwimmer. In 1951, Peres met Schwimmer on a flight over the North Pole. During their conversation, an idea was launched to repair and improve surplus planes. The idea was embraced by Israel's first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion. Schwimmer later met with Ben-Gurion, who asked him, "Are you learning Hebrew now?" Ben-Gurion had instructed the Technion to build a whole aeronautical engineering department. Schwimmer was asked to return to Israel and oversee the building of it. He agreed on one condition, that there would be no political hacks or cronies involved in it in any way. As a result of all this, the Israeli aviation group called Bedek was founded. By 1916, it was producing a bona fide French Fuga fighter. It was nicknamed Sukit, meaning swallow. Ben-Gurion declared with admiration, "You've gone beyond repairs. You've built a jet." The enterprise was given a new name, Israel Aircraft Industries. The lesson in all of this: an American Jew was recruited to provide a huge jolt to Israel's economy without a single investment dollar. And the rest is history.